Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajacharya Ashtottaradarshi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajacharya Ashtottaradarshi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 10th day of April 2023 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 9, Appearance of the Demon Vritrasura, Text 41 and 42. And of course they are prose still, so I'll chant them myself. chant the first one anyway. Asmakam tavakanam tata 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 natanam hare tava chadananana yugala dhyanam buddha vidyan gadanam swalinga vibhadena atmasat kritanam anukampana ranjita vishada ruchida shishida smitava lokena vigalita madhula mukha vasamada kalaya chantas tapam anagarhasi shamayitum. Hare Krishna. I'm going to read the translation. O Supreme Protector, O Grandfather, O Supreme Pure. Oh, this is the demigods praying to the Lord, who is not before them, but they're praying to him. It's like, O Supreme Protector, O Grandfather, O Supreme Pure, O Lord, we are all surrendered souls at your lotus feet. Indeed, our minds are bound to your lotus feet in meditation by chains of love. Now please manifest your incarnation. Accepting us as your own eternal servants and devotees, please be pleased with us and sympathetic toward us. By your love-filled glance, with its cool and pleasing smile of sympathy, and by the sweet nectarian words emanating from your beautiful face, free us from the anxiety caused by this Vritrasura, who always pains the cores of our hearts. Purport. Lord Brahma is considered the father of the demigods, but Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, is the father of Brahma, because Brahma took birth from the lotus flower growing from the Lord's abdomen. Text 42, I'll just read the English translation. O Lord, as the small sparks of a fire cannot possibly perform the actions of the whole fire, we sparks of your Lordship cannot inform you of the necessities of our lives. You are the complete whole. Therefore, of what do we need to inform you? You know everything because you are the original cause of the cosmic manifestation, the maintainer and the annihilator of the entire universal creation. You always engage in your pastimes with your spiritual and material energies, for you are the controller of all these varied energies. You exist within all living entities, within the cosmic manifestation, and also beyond them. You exist internally as Para-Brahman and externally as the ingredients of the material creation. Therefore, although manifested in various stages at different times and places and in various bodies, you, the personality of Godhead, are the original cause of all causes. Indeed, you are the original element. You are the witness of all activities. But because you are as great as the sky, you are never touched by any of them. You are the witness of everything as Para-Brahman and Paramātmā. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, nothing is unknown to you. Purport. The Absolute Truth exists in three phases of spiritual understanding: Brahman, Paramātmā, and Bhagavan. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Shabdyate, Srimad Bhagavatam 1-11. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of Brahman and Paramātmā. Brahman, the impersonal absolute truth, is all-pervading, and Paramātmā is locally situated in everyone's heart. But Bhagavan, who is worshipable by the devotees, is the original cause of all causes. A pure devotee is aware that since nothing is unknown to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he need not be informed of a devotee's conveniences and inconveniences. A pure devotee knows that there is no need to ask the Absolute Truth for any material necessities. Therefore, while informing the Supreme Lord about their distress in being attacked by Vritrasura, the demigods apologized for offering prayers for their safety. A neophyte devotee, of course, approaches the Supreme Lord for relief from distress or poverty, or for speculative knowledge of the Lord. The Bhagavad Gita 7:16 mentions four kinds of pious men who begin devotional service to the Lord. One who is distressed, artha; one in need of money, artharti; one who is inquisitive, jigyasu; and one who is searching for the Absolute Truth, jnani. A pure devotee, however, knows that since the Lord is omnipresent and omniscient, there is no need to offer prayers or worship Him for one's personal benefit. A pure devotee always engages in the service of the Lord without demanding anything. The Lord is present everywhere and knows the necessities of His devotees. Consequently, there is no need to disturb Him by asking Him for material benefits. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur unmilitam mena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So, I think I've mentioned this before in the classes I've given on this passage, on this section of Bhagavatam. But there's a certain tension here and disconnect between what the demigods know to be the truth, as I just expressed in the last two verses, that Krishna is all-pervading, he's the super soul, he knows everything already. So what need is there for us to ardently ask him to please, they don't ask him to give us a means by which we can conquer the demons. They ask him again and again, please kill the demon, please you kill the demon, you see? So, but then they realize, well, that's, he already knows and everything. And even they have this verse that one who has once tasted the nectar of Krishna Katha, descriptions of your wonderful activities and beautiful pastimes and all these things, once tasted it, will never ask for anything material because it'll be floating along in pure blissful love of Godhead. But they don't do that. They're not on that level. They know that to be true. But then the next thing they do is ask, please kill that demon, So this whole thing is kind of instructive for us also in our sadhana, because we have material desires. We certainly have desire for safety. If there's some danger, somebody walks in with an AR-15 into the temple, which could happen at any moment. I mean, in this environment, then what would we do? Would we run toward them? Would we run toward the deities? Would we run outside? You don't know how the visceral reaction would be, because how much you're in the body consciousness of life. But the pure devotee wouldn't think twice. Don't shoot the deities. Come to me. But Maharaj likes to tell the story of I think it was the Detroit temple, where there's the various, just like we have today, the Krishna consciousness movement attracts a certain percentage of crazy people. And one of the reasons is because we deny ordinary perception of reality, right? In a sense, we're all like far out, we have a different vision. So most times they're harmless, but sometimes they can be violent. Like that. So here was one story. So there was one fellow who was they knew him in the temple, but he didn't do anything illegal. They just threw him out. So then one day the temple was on the second floor of the building. And it was the, after the morning program, and most of the devotees were busy in the kitchen. They're getting ready to go on book distribution or whatever. And the guy runs up the stairs toward the temple. And everybody who watched him knew what he was going to do. He was going to try to attack the deities. And so he runs into the temple, the curtains are open like this, and he's running toward the deities full speed. By Krishna's arrangement, there was a devotee in the temple who was a fighter. Some devotees are like Kshatriyas. So the guy is running toward the deities, and he runs after him, he tackles him, he touched Radharani's sorry, that's as far as he got. And he was able to pull him back and knock him out, So this happens sometimes, So the idea is that's the proper reaction, obviously. But here you hear what's happened. I mean, this Vritrasura, he's a threat. They had enough trouble with the previous attack, which had evicted them from their. You remember when they offended Brahaspati, became weak. Meanwhile, the demons are nicely serving Shukracharya, their guru, and they're becoming strong. So they were able to conquer them and evict them from the heavenly planets. And they approached Brahma full of injuries. They'd been cut by the. So that was the first thing. And he said, well, approach Vishwarup, he told them, as the priest. And so that was valuable because he gave him the Rayana Kavacha, a very valuable mantra for protection, invincibility. Okay. But then Indra, what does Indra do? He cuts off Vishwarup's heads because Vishwarup has some affinity for the demons. He's offering some, So that happened. So now they're in even worse trouble because Trashta, the father, was so angry, I'm going to create a demon who'll kill Indra. and he chanted the mantras, but he chanted one backwards. So instead of getting a demon who'll kill Indra, he got a demon whom Indra will kill. You see the problem. Grammar, Sanskrit grammar is very significant. That's why we should be careful in pronunciation. Anyway, so that's the situation now. Now they have to go, but this time they don't go to Brahma, they go directly to Narayan. And my impression is that they're not actually seeing Narayan, but because they're asking him to manifest. And their prayers are kind of a mixture. They know the ultimate truth, which is that, as they say here and other places, other prayers, he knows everything already. He's the Paramātmā. There's no need to inform him of your troubles. He already knows. But that means that you're getting what you deserve. In other words, the anxiety you're in and so forth is something that is just, because he's applying it. But still they're approaching. Please take care of this Vitrasa. We know that you know everything already, but we can't control ourselves, basically. So that's the story. And what will happen, as we see, that he won't kill Vitrasa. Just as Lord Krishna didn't just wipe out the other side, Arjuna had to fight. That was the whole point. So the demigods are going to have to go to Dadyansha or Dadichi and beg him for his body. And I think what happens is the Dadichi first says, "Are you kidding? The body is so very dear to the soul." But he's just joking. He's so renounced and so realized that, okay, he offers the body. And his body has been strengthened, I think somehow by the Narayan Kavacha. But the bones are very powerful and make this thunderbolt out of his bones, And eventually Indra conquers Vitrasura. But I get a sense that the whole pastime, which we'll learn a lot in the next few chapters about who Vitrasura really is, the whole story of Chitraketu, and how he realized God, but he insulted Shiva, and then he got cursed to become a demon. But the whole thing culminates, the whole lesson of this pastime, because one thing we should remember, that the Bhagavatam, when just read, through the Sanskrit, how you could chant like that, you just read it, then this chapter and the whole chapters, that I forget how many chapters it is before we finally are present there with Vitrasura on the battlefield, dying and offering his prayers. And those prayers are like the essential lesson of the whole thing. I remember Jayawada Swami once came here and gave a class on one or two of those prayers. It was fascinating. But the Bhagavatam is spoken in 7 days. It's all very urgent. Nobody's sleeping, nobody's eating, everyone's listening. Shukadeva is speaking and Maharaj is hearing. So it takes us months and months and months to go through the Bhagavatam. We have our one class and we have the purports, we have the Sanskrit. But if you take the whole thing as a whole, because that's how, you hear a book, within 1 hour or less you can hear the whole pastime, that Bhagavatam always comes back to that principle of pure devotion, as we have it defined so beautifully by Rupa Goswami in his Nectar of Devotion. And Jiva Goswami, I think I've shared this with you several times, this one little phrase, that in the beginning of the second canto, the third chapter, I believe it is, you have this whole list, you have the demigods, which ones to pray to for certain things. It's like a shopping list. Do you want a beautiful body full of strong senses? Worship Indra. Would you like a nice wife? Then you worship Uma. Health? Surya. And it goes on and on and on like that. And then, but that's, you can't just read that and think, well, this is very interesting. The Bhagavatam is teaching us how we can get our desires fulfilled. No, you have to keep reading. And all of that attempt to approach the demigods for fulfillment of desires is qualitative, no different from the atheistic scientists manipulating the material energy to fulfill their desires. Ultimately, it does not really improve your life. You may temporarily fulfill your material desires, but that just buries you deeper in the material world. What does Krishna say in the 9th chapter? The conclusive lesson about worshiping the demigod. That's the whole Karma Kanda section. All of that. He says, what is it? Trividya mam soma paputta papa yajayadiswa swagatim pradiyante te purnimasada sudendra lokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. He's saying some worship me indirectly, knowers of the three Vedas, by drinking the Soma Ras and praying to the demigods for elevation to the heavenly planet. And then some of them who do it nicely, Tetam, are you doing that on the side? See what is going on? See? Oh, okay. I'm just kidding. So what's the next verse? The whole lesson is there in like 2 verses. Tetam bhuktva swagalokam vishalam chine punye martyalokam vishanti. Now, if you're, as soon as you pick up any of Prabhupada's books, small book, big book, any book, you won't be reading more than a few paragraphs before you find out this is dealing with the absolute plane of happiness forever, eternally. You're not dealing with any improving your material situation. Material situation should be as simple as possible. That Akinchana, that prayers of Kunti, right there in the first canto, it becomes very clear that Krishna is the property of the propertyless. Those who claim to possess this and this is mine, and they're not going back to Godhead, because you have to be free of all material desires in order to actually enter into Godhead. But not free of desires. You have one overwhelming desire, that Krishna will be pleased. That's the essence of all your desires. And how that's done, well, you learn that from the devotees on this plane and also in Goloka Vrindavan, or in your next birth in the material world, where you get trained up in your specific service. But it's all based on this idea of desire. And our desires are now contaminated, distorted, because we've left the spiritual world. We didn't want to serve Krishna. We wanted to compete with Krishna. That's the basic original sin, if you will. And we can't do that in the spiritual world. You can imagine what a disturbance that was to all the other devotees. Just like in this temple. If so, all of a sudden someone, starts just, collecting Lakshmi at the Sunday feast and then putting it in the bank, in his own account. That won't be tolerated for long, right? The whole idea is that it's an environment of service that we help to bring each other up. When you see someone else doing a nice service, you should get enlivened. Oh, that's a nice model. Let me pick up that mood. Just like the book distributors. Vijay told that story of there's a certain amount of competition that was encouraged, but when that gets out of hand, it becomes a material thing. And there you had one devotee who wanted to be a top that day or that week, or I don't know, that year. And so another devotee was distributing to a fellow in the airport, I guess it was. And behind him, so he couldn't see, he was saying, "Don't take it, don't take it." That's not the mood. That's no. You should be, applauding, appreciating, and that's the whole idea. Because Krishna's pleased. Krishna's not pleased with that attitude. So the demigods are Sakama devotees. And Krishna says in this verse, okay, if you perform all this trividyas and all this sacrifice and austerity nicely, you can go up to the spiritual world, to the material heaven, Indraloka. And you can hear about it in the Karmakanda, the wonders of Nandanandana gardens and all of the nymphs and the apsaras dancing there. I mean, let's try it, Hare Krishna. So, Tetam Bhuktva, so he describes in one line, Tetam Bhuktva Svargalokam Vishalam. I learned the word Vishal early on, because there was a devotee who was very big, named Vishal. Do you remember Vishal? When you were a kid, he was a famous devotee. Anyway, so Vishala means very wide, broad. So Krishna says, and they enjoy, extensive godly delights in the heavenly planets. But done. Chine punye martya lokam vishanti. But then when your punya is used up, because it's all like punya in the bank, in the bank account, and there's no banking mistakes. They're keeping careful record because it's the super soul, and Chine punya martya lokam vishanti. Every word is important. He doesn't say you come back to earth. You come back to the world of death. That's what martya loka means. Do you ever notice how the word martya is very similar to the word mortuary and mortal? It's the same word. So then what's Krishna's conclusion? Evam trihi dhamma hanupapanna gatakatam kama kama. This trayi, this worshipping according to karma kanda, all of these material desires, they maybe go to the heavenly. You just go and come. Dhammapana gatakatam kama kama labanti. You're just serving your lusty desires. So in that chapter also he says, Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti bhuti vrata, bhutani yanti bhutija, yanti madhyajinopima. Where you worship, what this word worship means, you say, well, we got to go to the temple to worship, right? No, people are worshiping all the time. They're worshiping mammon. It's right in the Bible. What is it? Asadupasana. Naramantaho asadupasana yatmahano. There's a line in the 87, one of the prayers of the personified Vedas, very instructive, these prayers. Asadupasana means worshipping the impermanent. That's what material life is. People worshipping their bodies, spending hours, fixing it up, sacrificing to buy clothes and the cosmetics. It's a form of worship. Why? Because you'll get a result from that. You'll get pleasure. You'll attract the opposite sex, whatever it is. It's all on a very low level. But that's what the essence of worship. You pay attention. You try to work according to the rules and regulations so that you can get the benefit. And when you get the benefit, you can enjoy. So here it says, Yanti deva vrata devan. If one sacrifices, worships the devas, you go to the devas. Yanti vrata devan. Pitrin yanti bhutiva, you worship the pitris, you go to the pitris, pitri loka. Bhutani yanti bhuteja, if you worship the bhutas and the pretas and the ghosts and the goblins, you'll go to become one of them. There's a lot of that going on. And yanti madhyajinopi mam. But if you worship me, you'll come to me. So then the intelligent person says, well, what's the best destination? What should I worship? And he says, yes, if you worship Krishna. And the thing is, it's all very logical, but if we just had the Bhagavad Gita, we didn't have the temple, we didn't have the kirtan, we didn't have the prasad, we didn't have the devotion, nobody would do it. Nobody became a devotee in these materialistic Bhagavad Gitas. But because Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya to give us the process by which even if you just try it, even if you just begin, there's so much benefit. And you can feel something. People come to the kirtan, all kinds of people are chanting all over, but they're not following strictly. Okay, but the fact that they're chanting at all is tremendously auspicious. And they'll maybe next life they'll make an advancement. Or the books. Millions and millions of books are going out, but we don't have millions and millions of devotees joining. So the books are either going on the shelf, hopefully. Sometimes they discarded, whatever. But any Prabhupada said, if they read one word, if they read one, they'll be benefit eternally. Just like chanting Hare Krishna one time. We read yesterday, I think it was in the purport, or no, it was in the morning reading, that one who thinks that, this is the Bengali, Eka Krishnanam, one who thinks that the the utterance of one name of Krishna. Oh, let me put it this way. It's important to get the subjects and the predicates proper. One who thinks that 10 million Ashwamedha sacrifices are equal to the utterance of one name of Krishna is an atheist. Pashandi. In other words, it's incalculable what the gift that Lord Chaitanya has given. And Prabhupada is fulfilled and is fulfilling this desire that in every town and village the name will be known and chanted, spreading it all over the world. Sometimes we forget how fortunate we are. This process of chanting the holy name, there should be no material desire behind that. Now you may begin with that. Boy, I'm in so much anxiety. I see these devotees; they're so bright-faced and relaxed. Let me try this chanting for that reason. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. When I first started chanting, I don't want to give myself all the time as an example, but I had no idea. It was just the mantra that was available that by good fortune, maybe previous life, I was attracted to. And there was one pamphlet that was printed. It wasn't even a pamphlet; it was a booklet of this one yogi who was supposedly conducting 25 years of Akhanda Kirtan, means unbroken Kirtan of Hare Krishna in South Africa. And there was so many people, and none of whom I knew, who were writing the praises of this Hare Krishna. I said, this is my mantra, this is the one I should meditate on at the end of my Hatha Yoga.
I had no reason, I want love of God. There was nothing like that. It was just, it'll help me, quiet my mind or something, But I was doing it. I started chanting and meditating, like that. And I was thinking, wow, this is a powerful mantra. Let me investigate it. Krishna brought me to contact with devotees. So that is the different. Here, it's not available. It's not like all these demigods are going to start chanting Hare Krishna, have a big kirtan, and whatever happens. It's not like that. But they are representing the universal, practically universal motivation that everyone has to somehow improve our material situation. We may be in great distress, therefore I'll pray to God, The artos, the ones who are in distress, they're by far the biggest group of people who go to church, to mosque, to shul, to whatever they go to, the temple. Because material life is full of all kinds of dangers. Even if I'm okay now, there's much anxiety about dangers to come. I have health insurance, but I knew a friend of mine had health insurance and he still got sick and died. So I better go to church. All kinds of calculations like this. So that if you don't graduate from that platform, then you really can't have pure devotional service. But if you come in contact with Gaudiya Vaishnavism, with Lord Chaitanya's movement, as Srila Prabhupada has set it up in all those wonderful books, then you soon learn what you should pray for. And by regularly attending and associating with devotees, you pick up that mood of how you can be happy just by doing devotional service. Krishna is pleased when we're chanting His name. That's why it's blissful. He's seeing, because the name is so powerful. He's invested the name with His potencies. Nama makari bahudani disharva shaktis tatrapitadi abhitaksmanane nakala. That niyamataksmanane nakala is a very important phrase. It means there's no hard and fast rules for time or place or candidate. Anyone, anytime, any place can chant Hare Krishna. And because of that, Prabhupada brought it to the depths of the Kali Yuga. New York City, the Bowery, anywhere you could find some listeners. He was willing to, give it out. So that's what it takes. It takes the determination. So many, just read the Lilamrita, of course many of you have already. But, all that effort in India, distributing the BTG, 110 degrees in Delhi and having a stroke. And Jhansi, he started the League of Devotees, and it looked very promising. He had a disciple, he was doing Harinam, he was respectable people. And then it was taken away, and back on the street, basically, and so many things. Then finally, he goes and he starts writing the BTG. Krishna comes in the form of a friend saying, they'd be more lasting if you did some books. So Prabhupada decides to publish the Bhagavatam. 4 years to do those 3 little volumes, And this, I can't resist this little editorial aside, as Maharaj would say, as a sidelight. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, as Prabhupada published it, it's nice to get, anyway, you can find it on the database, the old ones, the Delhi Bhagavatam, called the Delhi Bhagavatam. So when Prabhupada oftentimes refers to the Bhagavad Gita, he calls it the Bhagavad Gita. There's no diacritics at first, he has. Bhagavad, Bhagwat, G, and then next word, Geeta. Bhagavad Gita. And it's 99% of the time, it's the Bhagavad Gita. Just as we have in America. You'll find the Bible, the Quran, and the Bhagavad Gita. This is our Bible, Yeah. But, so, I did some research in this because I'm working on this. And that, unlike all the books he produced in the West, flying everywhere, getting up in the middle of the night, dictating, Prabhupada went over the book. He checked the galley proofs and made corrections and sent it in. Printed it out again. More galley proofs, checked it. And so he whatever he had there was his final, and then he approved finally what it was. 99% of these Bhagavad Gitas are the Bhagavad Gita. And that's why when I did the CC revision and I did the Ishopanishad, I did the Krishna book and the TLC, they're all the Bhagavad Gita. Just like you find, I read Quran and Bible. Does that sound right? I read Quran, Bible, Iliad, and Odyssey. There's something missing there, isn't it? The Quran, the Bible, the Iliad, the Odyssey. Anyway, I'm just it's a sidelight, you know. But the point is that Prabhupada took so much care in preparing this for us, all because was a great sadhu, exactly in the terms that are defined in the Bhagavatam, the tikshava, karunika. They go together. If you're going to be compassionate and you have to put yourself on the line to give people the most valuable gift, it means risking your life, then you have to be the tikshava. You have to be tolerant. They go together. And therefore, Suradak Sarvadehinam, the friend of every living being. And Prabhupada would always, including the animals. This mass slaughter that's going on every day, you know. Why is America suffering so much? Why does it have, you know, I saw this chart. The number of school shootings there have been in the last 10 years or 20 years, you know. A bunch of list of countries, Japan, 2, Nairobi, 5, like that. America, 210. What is that? It's insanity. It's all, you know, because it's karma. We've killing so many animals and all these wars we've been in and everything. So anyway, nobody's going to be able to be happy or peaceful, either locally or en masse, without coming to the point of bhakti yoga. And that's a fact. And Prabhupada knew that, and therefore he was ready to go out, risk his life, and he almost lost it several times, in order to give the holy name and the knowledge, the books, the association, and found this institution where people can also get the books and the association and the name and the darshan and like that. So it's interesting, the demigods are showing they're stuck, you know, they want their kingdoms back, you know, and so please, you know, kill Vajrasura, and he didn't do it. You know, he gave them this kind of a horrific thing. Can you imagine? You know, can you please go and ask Amoghaleela for his body so we can make it? It's just ghastly, you know. But that's what they get, and they eagerly went to do it. So the Bhagavatam ultimately culminates, you know, the 10th canto, the wonderful service that the Brajbasis are doing for Krishna and enjoyment and all that. That's really the message, the ultimate message. But it's fascinating, and these prayers, the Sanskrit, I mean, it's just so beautiful, you know, the poetic things that are going on, even in the prose. All right, I'm going to stop there. If there's any discussion on these points, basically the point is don't lose your track. Anyabhilasha-dashunyam jnana-karma-jnanapatam. That our goal is pure devotion. Oh yeah, one other thing I just wanted to mention as a sidelight, and that is this Narada Bhakti Sutra. I have a couple of minutes here. How did it come about? You know, Prabhupada was you go back to the 1966, you know, the founding of the movement and everything. You had all these boys, you know, who had a little experience. They'd already bought this book, that book, you know, but they didn't know if it was authorized. So they brought this book, that book, and I said, no. They brought Narada Bhakti Sutta. There was another translation. It's a very short book, you know, it's like 80 sutras. And Prabhupada said, yes, this is a good book, you know. But Prabhupada wasn't ready to translate. He was working on Bhagavad Gita and whatever, you know. So Prabhupada went to the West Coast, and he was there in Stinson Beach getting ready to go back to India to recuperate from his stroke, whatever. So they wrote to him. Satsuru Maharaj was the most, how shall I say, he is, up to this day, an impassioned writer. He just loves to write, you know, which is good, and he's good at it. So he wanted to know if they could read the book, and Prabhupada said yes. And Satsuru Maharaj thought maybe he could translate the book, so it would have an authorized edition with his commentary. And Prabhupada said okay, and he started it, and he did maybe 12 sutras or so. There's only 80 or 85, But then he stopped because he said, no, I'm doing the teaching of Lord Chaitanya, and it's basically the same teaching, so I want to concentrate on that. He was taking teachings from the CC and putting it in one book, you know, because he didn't know he could get the whole CC done. So he stopped it. He never resumed it. But there's those first 12 with his wonderful commentary. So I was looking through. Now, I just read the sutras through. It takes about, 10 minutes. And they're essential, just like the Vedanta Sutra. Every one of them is important, And this is Bhakti Sutras. So I highly recommend, if you haven't done that, take a few minutes out and just read through the sutras. And later on you can go back to the commentary. And he has 6-7 chapters, but they're all very short. It takes maybe 15 minutes max, 10 minutes. But it's really a nice meditation, just to sidelight. Okay, you were going to ask a question. Go ahead. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bhopal.
You mentioned, the unhealthy competition between book distributors. Dvija Mani and I, in the early days, we would set up tables side by side, and we would be handing out the same pamphlet. So one person would say no, and then I would say, take this pamphlet, it's better. So they would say no. Some of them would say no, but they think about it and say, okay, what is this about?
No, it didn't have any logic. It's your smile. I'm not saying Dvija Mani doesn't have a good smile. He's in the back. He's in the kitchen. He's hearing this now. He may do something to my little quota of hummus that he's making. Yeah, I mean, Prabhupada encouraged it at first. And for whole temples competing. He would tell Tamal, who was doing the Radha Damodar, In L.A., the Christmas, they went out and they did this huge number, can you match it? And Tamal was, get on. But the thing is, there's a danger with that. Like I mentioned, if you get into a materialistic mindset, then you can lose the thread. But, it's healthy when it's all in good fun, and when you're happy to lose, then that it's healthy. When you're angry and you lose, then it's a big problem. Okay, Tyler, you're on.
And just one quick question before my actual question is clarification. In the purport, it says that you've always punished the demons and Danavas.
Yeah.
How is it? Never heard of a Danava before. Are they different from a demon?
No, the Danavas are a line of demons. Like we have this lady named Danavari.
I was about to say.
Yeah. She's a servant of the enemy of the Danavas.
Oh, Jai.
Krishna.
Okay.
Ari means enemy. So the Daityas and the Danavas. This Diti, who's the wife of was it Kardama? No, Kashyapa. I'm sorry. And that's how we got Hiranyakasipu and Hiranyaksha. She was so lusty that she forced him to have sex at the wrong time. And so, of course, the plan was Jaya and Vijaya to come down, so that's it. So yeah, they're just a race of demons. It's a little redundant, but yeah, demons.
The later purport, once again, reiterates the 4 types of people that turn to Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
As far as their desire. It seems here that the demigods are just coming out of distress. They're looking for relief from their distress.
Totally.
It seems very basic. So my question is, we hear about those 4 types all the time. Is there a different quality in their desire, or are those just, okay.
Yes. Chaturvanabha jandamam jana sukutano jana. Krishna says in the 7th chapter? 4th chapter. 7th chapter, sorry. Chaturvanabha jandamam. There are 4 types of sukriti, of pious people who worship me. And then he gives a list. Arto, Jigyasu, Artati, Jnani. So the Artas, Artos, they are the distressed. Very broad, category. The Artartis, now there's 2 kinds of Artartis. Prabhupada would always say those who are in need of money, and you'll find that in the purports, and that's it. But in the commentators, they say this also includes someone like Dhruva. He's saying that Dhruva is not in need of money, he's a prince, But he wanted the kingdom greater than his father. These people who want to go to the heavenly planets and who worship a Karmakanda, they may worship Agni and do all these other things. But they can come to Krishna also. Come to the temple or whatever, And that's their prayer. That they, please, let me, not that they're poor, but let me succeed in business. so that I can become a big magnet, a business magnet or whatever, anything like that. So the ones who are like plenary, who are like really on the edge, that's the artas. They're also, that's one of the biggest distresses in the world, is like not having enough money. So anyway, so then the artati, but it's basically out of material desire. Then there's the curious. They're not as they're better than the artos and the artos, but they're curious. I mean, people come in here all the time because they're curious. They got a little notice, or they have a little book, and they're not really knowing that I really need to cultivate spiritual knowledge. They don't know what it is. But it's good. They're curious, and they come into the association, and then they can go from there. It's important. But those who actually know something about transcendence, about yoga, about bhakti, but they want to increase it, and they're really into getting pure, those are the best. And then at the end of this whole thing, he says, those who are after knowledge are just like me, they're very, and then he culminates, Bahunam Jamanamante, Gyanavan Mampapadide. Those who, after many births cultivating knowledge, maybe many births, they finally understand that I'm everything, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, then what do? Surrender unto me. They surrender unto me, and such great Mahatmas are very rare. So the best are the Gyanis who can graduate into the highest thing. Anyone else? Vijay Krishna, you there? He's boycotting my classes. He never's there for my classes anymore. Anyway, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.
Next class, Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol. That's Danavari, the servant of the enemy of the Danavas.